right. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. Aku. Happy to be here to share with you today. Let me chat and get it moved out of the way so we can get started and redefine what it means to be a strong through cultivating inner peace. Let's start with a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to, I want to ask you for the whole session to keep your mics on mute. Right? This is a gift to you. This is one session where you can show up and you don't have to worry about what you look like. You will interact with me through the chat. Please hold all your questions until the end. I'm in the end where if you want a beautiful face, you can turn on your camera, you can unmute yourself and share your wonderful voice and ask questions and interact with me at the end. Okay. We're going to start right away with a grounding exercise. I want you to think about, experience how you're feeling right in this moment. And please type to the chat, how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling stressed because you rushed to get here on time? Because you've had a hard morning? Are you already feeling relaxed? But please tell me in the chat, how are you feeling right now? Okay, I see. And know that throughout this, you can always chat to me directly. If you don't want it to be shared with everyone, that is perfectly fine. So I see that I see a few people are meh, pretty good, a little stressed, and tired. Okay, so I want you to all notice how you're feeling right now and see if there's any difference after we do this little breathing exercise. Okay, you're going to take 4 really deep breaths, and you're going to know that you're breathing deeply because your diaphragm is going to move, so your stomach is going to move, and you're going to know that because I'm going to ask you to place your right hand on your heart and your left hand on your tummy. Right? As you're breathing deeply and completely filling your lungs, that bottom hand should move out more than the top hand. And when you exhale, I want you to completely empty your lungs. Imagine that you are moving your belly button and pulling it all the way back to your spine. Creating that vacuum where you completely empty your lungs will help you completely fill them on the next breath. Okay, so everyone, take your right hand, place it over your heart, left hand on your tummy, and in your own time, take 4 deep breaths. And when you're finished, type into the chat and tell me how you feel. Here we go. Okay. Oh, when you finish breathing, type in the chat and let me know how you're feeling now. And I'm going to explain as we go on. By the time we're done today, you're going to understand why 4 deep breaths can be so effective in reducing stress. Okay. A little calmer. Yeah. Okay. A little better. Great. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. So everybody's felt a little calmer, and now you're grounded and ready to enjoy our session. So let me start by telling you a little bit more about me and about how I've come to focus so much in my work on stress and self-care. My story really starts in 2008. Do you guys remember 2008? That was a time of a major financial crash. Well, that was a time that I had a lot of things happen all at once in this 1 year that led to a personal crash as well. And not all those things were bad, but when you put so many big major things happening at a short period of time, then it certainly can cause a lot of stress. I got remarried in 2008, got pregnant with my second child, and I purchased a new home in Westchester. And the plan was to sell my home in Brooklyn, but because of the financial crash, we couldn't do that. So we ended up having to renovate and rent out a home that was an hour away from where we lived. Stressful. I closed my private practice in Brooklyn, New York, and moved my private practice to Westchester. I wasn't sure if the people of Westchester would be interested in the kind of work that I do, which is very spiritually based. And so that was really stressful. And then, you know, I went on bed rest. Right? In the midst of all of this, I was put on bed rest. And I can tell you that bed rest is misnamed. There is nothing restful about being stuck in bed when you are used to being busy, active person. And unfortunately, bed rest didn't work that well because my second daughter was born premature. So you guys are seeing the stress add up here, right? New marriage, premature baby, moving, and these we have in psychology. We have a list of some of the top stressors in life, and new job, moving, bringing a child into the world. Those are all in the top 10. So I had all those at once. This was me, and this was life, right? I was definitely feeling stressed, and I found myself arguing all the time with everybody. Right? I was the angry Black woman. Okay? But that's what I look like on the outside. The reality is, I wasn't angry. I was overwhelmed. And if all of this wasn't enough, wasn't overwhelming enough, then somebody in my little family got cancer. Okay? And finding out that somebody you love has cancer is by itself would be overwhelming. But you add it in the midst of everything else, whew, boy, was I at my breaking point. And I'm embarrassed to admit this, but my major way of dealing with things at that time was Oreo cookies, right? Binge eating Oreo cookies. Oreo cookies are wonderful, but I soon found that I was weighing more than I did when I gave birth to my second daughter. And this is a real problem. And I knew that I had to do something, that this couldn't last, that I couldn't keep eating my feelings, and that wasn't healthy. I know this is a psychologist. So I did what I think all good psychologists do when they're at their own personal breaking point. I went back to therapy. And in therapy, my therapist asked me about coping in the past, and in the past I had to cope with divorce and single parenting, and things were very stressful. But I had this incredible system of getting up at like 4:30 in the morning and meditating for a half an hour, and then doing some spiritual and psychological reading for another half an hour, 45 minutes, and then exercising for a half an hour, 45 minutes, all before I woke my daughter up to get her off to school. And I did that most mornings. And so my stress load was really low because I had ways of taking care of myself. But I couldn't do that right now with a newborn baby and a family member with cancer and a teenager. There was no way that I could spend an hour and a half a day solely focused on me. So, yes, I was overwhelmed, but in therapy, I figured out how to alter things so that I could find contentment. And in 2009, many things were the same, but my approach to things was very different. I had a blended family, and these are my girls. Yeah, I love this picture. My oldest daughter was the babysitter on Saturdays while I was at work seeing my clients. And I loved the day that I came out and found the two of them knocked out cold. right? This little one sleeping on her big sister. I don't know who wore who out, but I thought this was so precious and so cute. But having a blended family was very challenging. The teenager, I think 15, 16, felt displaced by her needy younger sister. Um, Going back and forth between visiting her father and living with us was stressful. But I was able to handle things much better in 2009. That premature baby needed physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. Sometimes I'd have two different therapists visiting our house at the same time. Not the same time, same day. And managing that schedule was really complicated, but I was able to handle that. And of course, getting the diagnosis of cancer is just the beginning when you have to deal with cancer. The family member that had cancer then had to go for surgery. And when we found out that the surgery didn't get all the cancer, I did not fall apart and didn't resort to Oreo cookies, as we found out that the family member also had to get radiation treatments. I was able to handle all of that in 2009 with inner peace. And uh, I am a strong Black woman. I was a strong Black woman. And we know that our strong Black women are providers, caretakers, homemakers. But so many of us, just like I did, suffer and have tears in private when we are smiling in public. And that is really a challenge that is important to me. Now, I do a lot of workshops as a psychologist. In fact, it's the thing that I love doing the most as a psychologist. I work with the NYPD, and that's what you see here. I work with the NYPD, teaching them about mental health and mental illness, about communication skills and de-escalation. And this is one of the ways I protest is by teaching police officers, mostly the hostage negotiators and the emergency response teams, these things. And I love doing it. But the reason why I love focusing most on cultivating inner peace is because I was raised by a superhero, disguised as my single mom, right? And my mom is fabulous. She raised me all by herself, and I watched her struggle. I watched her struggle with so many of these issues, with the pressures of being a single parent. And therefore, and I struggled. So I know how hard this is and how important it is because we set the foundation for our families and for the children to come. So I'm dedicated to making a change. Let's talk a little bit more about what it really means when we talk about the strong Black woman, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Right? A few years ago, there was some research done examining extreme stress in women in the United States. About a quarter of all the women in the United States said that they experienced extreme stress, but half of all Black women said they experience extreme stress. And this stress is related to issues around family, employment, finances, racism, discrimination, and hypervigilance. Right? The worry that we have about our children, our families, and right now, especially around issues around the police. Okay? Um, we also experience higher rates of depression. And when we are depressed, we have more severe symptoms than our Caucasian counterparts. And that depression that is untreated often leads to things like overeating, excessive drinking, smoking, overspending, resulting in higher rates of obesity in the community of Black women, higher blood pressure, and higher rates of type 2 diabetes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But these are all the reasons why it's important to me for us to redefine what it means to be a strong Black woman. And redefining it is all about cultivating inner peace. So, based on my experience in 2009, I created this Cultivating Inner Peace system. And the system starts with the foundation really helping understand things like energy, The first step is personalizing that energy transformation, then blocking negative energy, cultivating positive energy, and then figuring out how to maintain that. How do you keep that? Once you have your inner peace, it's really important to make sure that nothing steals it away from you. And that's all from my latest book, Cultivating Inner Peace, A Sustainable System for Black Women. Okay. Uh, Today, specifically, we're going to talk about from the foundation section, we're going to talk about the nature of stress. From step one, we're going to talk about energy, personal energy transformation, and you're going to get to feel an example of what that is. And then from step three, we're going to talk about cultivating positive energy. I'm going to give you an example. In fact, my promise to you today is this is not a sales webinar. This is really just a gift for you. I'm going to give you at least three concrete examples of tools that you can start using immediately to start reducing your own stress, and one free gift. Okay, so that is my promise to you today. We're going to start with the nature of stress. Okay. What would happen if, I want you to imagine this with me right now, what would happen if in the room that you're sitting in, wherever you're watching, a big angry bear were to come running in the room and you stopped to think about what to do? Type into the chat, what would happen if you stopped to think about what to do with this big angry bear? Okay. I see. I'd be bear lunch. Right? Anybody else? Okay, yes. Basically, if you were to stop and think about what to do in this kind of situation, you would be bear lunch. And that is why our wonderful brains are designed in order to take care of us in these kinds of situations. I'm going to stop sharing the screen because I need to share my hand now so that you can see what I'm going to explain. So I'm going to do a little brief explanation of how our brains work, and so that you can better understand stress in our brains and our bodies. This is a simplification. I say that from the beginning, but I think that understanding the mechanism also gives us the foundation to make changes. So I really want to help you understand how the brain works when it comes to stress. So imagine this is your brain. Okay. And you have different parts of your brain. Our brain actually develops from the ground up. So we're going to focus first here on this part of the brain, which is the part of the brain that takes care of the automatic systems in life. I call it the lizard brain. This is the part that we share with other animals like lizards. And it's really responsible for all the automatic stuff, how fast your heart beats, releasing chemicals, stuff that we don't think about, that we don't even notice is going on in our bodies. This is also the part of the brain that takes over when we are in a stressful situation, when we need to do one of three things. We need to fight to get out. So you could have fought that bear. You could run away to get away from the bear, or you could freeze and hope that the bear doesn't see you. The fight, flight, and freeze mechanism is here. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Next is the emotional brain. Right? And we share this part of the brain with, some animals like monkeys, right, that are not known for just surviving, but have emotions. Right? Our emotional brain, when we are angry, when we're afraid, speaks to this part of our brain and activates the fight, flight, and freeze system. And last but not least, most developed in humans, the prefrontal cortex is the thinking brain. So this part of the brain is the part that thought about what you should have for lunch. Should you have brought something for lunch today to save money, or should you pick up something fast? What would make the most sense in terms of trying to get to the session on time? That's this part of the brain. Okay? The complicated thing about the human brain is that we can think about things, and when we think about things, they can have an effect on our emotions, which can then trigger fight, flight, and freeze. So And big angry bear is obvious, but what about a big exam? Like the licensing exam I had to take to become a licensed clinical psychologist, very close to the exam that lawyers have to take. So that was a huge exam, and it feels life threatening. But I'm not going to die if I fail an exam. I'll just have to take it over again, right? There's no death there. But when you feel that way because of the way you think, it triggers how you feel, and that can trigger the fight, flight, and freeze system. Okay, so that's the basics. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now, and yeah, just have to get the chat down again one more time, and then so that we can go on a little bit more. I wish I could say that I made up that hand model, but the original hand model is from a psychiatrist, Dr. Siegel, who uses only two parts, though. He only talks about the emotions and the prefrontal cortex. As I studied stress more, I learned about Dr. McLean's, who's a neuroscientist, his triune brain, the survival, the emotional, and the executive, which is the prefrontal cortex. And I really liked his explanation because I think it really helps understand how our brains work better. So that's why I've kind of created my own mashup of these two, but I like the hand model. So I want to give them credit. Let's look a little bit more at the survival brain, right? Which is broken up into these two parts of our nervous system. The arousal system, the fight, flight, and freeze system, is in charge when we are running away from that bear, making sure our hearts beat faster to get blood to our bodies. It stops our stomachs from digesting. It releases glucose into our system so we have the energy. All of those things happen. We're not thinking about any of them. But then we have the opposite system, the rest and digest system. And that system turns off the fight and flight system. So when the only part of all of this automated stuff we have control over is our breath. And that's why the breath is so powerful. That opening exercise we did, where I asked you to take 4 deep breaths, is so powerful because it tells the system there's nothing to worry about here. You can turn off the fight, flight, and freeze system and turn on the calming system. It's the only part of this system that we have easy access to. So that's why the breath is so powerful. Now, another important thing to know about the stress system is it's an acute system. This system is made to save your life. Okay? The reason why animals don't get ulcers is because in their systems, when these things happen, if a bear is chasing a gazelle, then I don't know if bears actually chase gazelles, but if it is, it's either going to capture the gazelle, things are over, or the gazelle's going to get away and they can go back to a resting state. We can think about things all day to keep us stressed. So for many people, for strong Black women, stress is not just acute. We have long-term stress. And long-term stress does not cause illness. And I've researched this a lot. I know people say that long-term stress doesn't cause illness, but what it does is it exacerbates. So if you have any weak systems, if you are genetically prone to anything, it's going to exacerbate it. It's going to cause us to release more glucose and exacerbate things in that system, so you are more likely to develop diabetes. You're prone to that. It's going to your heart beating, and you're more likely to develop high blood pressure or other heart problems if your body is prone to that. And the other thing about this long-term stress is it often interrupts our ability to sleep. And our bodies repair while we're sleeping. And so another reason why it can lead to difficulties physically is because if you don't have time to repair your body while you're sleeping, then you are going to continue to get ill. Okay? Which is quickly some of the things that we notice with long-term stress is in our bodies, we have headaches, stomach aches, frequent infections because our bodies are not repairing, muscle fatigue, muscle tension and fatigue, emotions, anger. Like I mentioned before, right? That I was the angry Black woman. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't, but that's what the emotions that showed up as: apprehension, anxiety, loss of confidence, sadness, and irritability. In our minds, we have nightmares, difficulty sleeping, worrying, a lot of negativity, indecision, and impulsivity. And then behavior, loss of sex drive, we become accident prone, overeating, like indulging in Oreo cookies, or losing appetite, sleeplessness, restlessness, and spiritually, very often as our stress increases, our connection to spirit decreases. And the antidote to all of this is self care. So let's dive into self care and start experiencing some stress reduction right here. What's important to know in this foundation section, foundation section, as we talk about foundation, is energy. Right? And so I just want to make sure that you guys understand what I mean when I'm talking about energy. Everything around us has energy. Right? The phone, camera, computer, whatever you're looking at this on has energy. It's what keeps all of the molecules cohesive, right? So everything around us has energy. And we can use that energy to change our own personal energy. We're going to have an example. Okay? I love talking about how you can use energy using all of the five senses, but given our time, we're only going to do one example. Okay. Now, Brenda is somebody that I worked with individually, and she's a mother of three, had very hectic taking care of herself and her family. And we worked on a system to kind of organize her and help her cultivate more inner peace. One of the things she needed to do was prepare a few things in the evening so that her mornings would run smoother. And one day she says to me, Dr. Aku, I know what I need to do, but I just find by the end of the day, I'm so tired. I don't have the energy to do what needs to be done. And that's what makes things difficult for me. So I'm going to share with you what I shared with her. And then I'm going to tell you what she said to me. So I want you to listen to this song. I'm going to play the whole song. Feel free to get up and move and type into the chat what comes up for you as you're listening to this song.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. Hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room with.
And feel free to clap along. Feel free to get up and dance. I already see somebody says, I love this song.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Tell me in the chat, is anybody dancing? You can dance like nobody's watching because we're not.
Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. Yeah. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
I have to say, this song's a couple years old, and especially when it first came out, it was played all over the place. But every time I hear it, it makes me happy, right? It makes me want to move. It gives me energy. I know I said I was going to play the whole thing, but it is 12:35, and I promise you it will be done by 1. So we're going to move on. All right, that was Happy by Will Ferrell. I'm sure you know that, but just in case you didn't, I want to make sure that I give credit where it's due. And so if you want to go and listen to that song, feel free to. Now, I want you to notice how you feel and how that song made you feel. And now I'm going to play another song for you. And I want you to type in the chat how this song makes you feel. Okay, so how did that song make you feel? So that was African Symphony by Earth, Wind, and Fire. And one of my favorite songs for when I lead meditations, when I do relaxation workshops, because as I see here in the chat, a few people typed in relaxed, right? And what I really want you to notice is the difference between the two songs. Right, and how they made you feel. Now, certainly music, there is a certain amount of subjectivity that one song may not be for you or for somebody else, but what's really important here is to notice the difference in energy. And so what I said to Brenda was, create a list of all of your favorite dance music and play that list of music in the evening when you're tired and you don't feel like doing all the things that you need to do for a smoother morning. A week later, she comes back to me. She's like, Dr. Aku, like that was like magic. I found that by the second song, I had the energy that I needed to get up and do those things so that my mornings are going smoother. So this is one thing that you can do starting immediately to change your energy, to give you some energy when you're tired, but also to relax yourself when you are feeling stressed. I also find it's really good for focusing at work. But you want to make sure, this is I guess, a ninja trick here. You want to make sure if you use it for focusing at work, that you don't use music in the language that you speak. You either use music that's in a foreign language or instrumental, classical music, because the next thing you'll know, if you're playing, your favorite songs that you can sing, you'll be singing and not working. So that's my secret tip for you. Okay. So before we go on, I want to give you a gift, right? And the gift is a free consultation with me, one-on-one, so that we can specifically talk about what you need to cultivate inner peace. You can schedule a time. I have some limited times available next week. And so you can go to draku at timetap.com and you'll see this picture there. You can schedule an inner peace time. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. I don't think I can put it in the All About You media chat, but I will share it there later. Oops. I'm going to put this in the chat right now to everyone. And you can go and schedule your own one-on-one with me. And that's my free gift to you, an inner peace consultation where we can talk about your particular challenges with inner peace. But let's move on for today. Right. The next thing I want you to do, I asked you to get paper and pen out earlier, and so you're going to need them now. And if you haven't got them, please quickly go and get paper and pen. I want you to write a list of 7 things that you're grateful for. Just pick the first 7 things off the top of your mind. Don't give it a lot of thought. They can be big things, little things. One of the things that I almost always put on my list is a hot shower. I've been to places in the world where you can't get a good hot shower. So that is something that I find myself almost daily grateful for. I want you to take a minute to write your list. I'm going to pay attention to the clock. I'm going to give you just 1 minute, and here you go. When you finish writing your list, put one of the things that you're grateful for into the chat for me. And I can't currently see the All About You chat, so if someone would like to read any comments that come in there, I'd greatly appreciate it. So far, I see health, my cats, another health and family. Excellent. Okay. Oh, that's been a minute, believe it or not. All right. So now I want you to grab something off of that list, anything. I grab something randomly, and I want you to write a short thank you letter to that thing on your list, to your cats, to your health, to your family. I want you to write this thank you letter. It can be to a thing. You can write it just as if you were writing a thank you letter to a person. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to just quickly write down a short thank you letter to one of the things on your list. Sorry about that. That hasn't been 3 minutes. My timer just went off again. We're going to take one more minute for everybody to finish up their letters. And when you do, I want you to type into the chat how you feel right now. How writing a thank you letter to something on your gratitude list made you feel. And for anybody that doesn't get a chance to finish their letter, it's okay. You can go back to it later. Okay, I see grateful. Okay. And I see at peace. That's wonderful. Oh, a new perspective. Excellent. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Ruth. Ruth is somebody that went through an experience, a session like this with me. And Ruth said that she'd been practicing keeping a gratitude list for years. But this was a new experience for her, writing an actual gratitude letter to something. And she said that it deepened her experience. It really helped her understand why she was grateful. Not just that she was grateful, but it deepened her gratitude experience. So the stuff that I know, the stuff that I've been working on for years now and teaching individually and in group sessions, it can help people who are new to doing all of this stuff and to changing energy and cultivating inner peace, but also people who have been practicing for years to help them deepen the practice and hold on to it. Okay. So my promise today was that I would give you at least 3 experiences of things that you can start using immediately. And I'm pretty sure that I fulfilled that promise. In fact, I think we might have done 4. We started out with the 4 deep breaths, right? So that's 1. We did music and the power and the energy that you can get from music. There's 2. Then we did a gratitude list and a gratitude letter, right? So I guess you can count that as 3, 4, at least 3. Right? And I have one more that I'm going to share with you at the end. But first, I'd like us to kind of deal with at least 4 more things before we end for today. First of all, I just want to remind you that self-care is not selfish. So many of us as little girls, learn from our parents that taking care of ourselves, stopping to take care of ourselves is selfish. And I want to push back against that idea. It's not selfish. In fact, it is probably one of the best things you can do. The better you take care of you, the better you can take care of all your other responsibilities. You can't give from an empty cup. So if you allow yourself to get run down, then who's going to take care of your family and your work if you're not there? So self-care is not selfish. Now, the stuff that I shared is very doable. And I just want you to think about for a minute what it means for you and what you're going to do in terms of creating and cultivating and sustaining your own inner peace. And I wanted to give you a few tips about this because I find that a lot of people have great ideas of doing these things, but then struggle when it comes to actually doing them. So if you want to achieve sustainable inner peace, I wanted to make a few suggestions. That when you reach to get help from somebody, you get help from somebody that has an advanced degree, like a PhD. That anybody can get a certificate to be a life coach in a weekend or in a couple-week course. But when you work with somebody that has an advanced degree, they have experience and knowledge behind them that can help you really understand when there are more complexities in your life than just this one topic. So I strongly suggest you look for somebody that has an advanced degree. But you also want somebody that has personal experience, somebody that has struggled with the issues that you're struggling with, that knows what it's like to walk through those difficult doors and struggle with things so that they are not just preaching from a book, but they can help you with some of their own personal experience and perspective. And lastly, you want somebody that has experience helping others because there are a lot of people that are brilliant but are not good teachers. So you want to make sure that this person that you're working with knows how to impart the wisdom that they've learned from books, from getting that advanced degree, and the wisdom that they've learned from their personal experience, but they need to be able to communicate that to you if it's going to be helpful to you. All right, number 3, let's close the loop here. At the beginning of this workshop, I told you a lot about my stress in 2008 and how I overcame in 2009, but we're in 2021 now. So I want to close the loop and bring you up to the here and now, right? That family member that had cancer likes to say that they are cured, they are in remission, and have been cancer-free for years now. It was a bit of a journey, but again, a journey that I was able to make with inner peace, and I'm so happy to say that they're all good. My big girl, I am so proud of. She graduated from Cornell in 2015. She ran a New York City Marathon. Whoops. She ran a New York City Marathon, and she is fully launched, has a job, and a wonderful boyfriend, and I am very, very proud of her. And my little girl, that little baby that needed physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. This is her getting her black belt in Taekwondo at 8 years old. I am incredibly proud of her. She speaks 3 languages, of course, English, but she's also fluent in Spanish and conversant in Chinese, and is doing very well in school. So she's overcome a lot of those issues that she had growing up, and all of those early interventions really helped. Now, I practice what I preach. And so, as you all know, we're in a pandemic. But the pandemic, in some ways, started here first. I live in New Rochelle, and I was in the containment area, walking distance from the synagogue where the first identified case was. I was at first worried that I might be unknown, infected, and infect the people who I was working with. That was very stressful. I was able to manage the stress and prepare our family for hunkering in with inner peace because I use the tools that I share with everyone. So, I have a question for you as we are coming to an end before I give you one last gift. Of all the things that I shared today, are there any of them that you can say that you can start using right now to start improving your inner peace? Type into the chat and share with me, are there any tools that you are dedicated to starting to use immediately? Okay, music. I love the idea of using music. Great. Breathing. Yes. Our breath is free and so effective in changing our energy. So, yes, breathing. Setting apart time for myself without guilt. Fabulous. Breathing and music playlists. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. All right. So, we're going to go for my last gift to you is my 1-minute stress reducer. This is my go-to, my favorite breathing exercise that's even more powerful than those 4 deep breaths that we did at the beginning. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to walk you through it. Okay, so this is my absolute favorite go-to, the breath square. I do this in every workshop, no matter what the topic, and I share it often with the people that I work with individually. You're going to inhale for a slow count of 4. You're going to hold the breath into your lungs for a slow count of 4. You're going to exhale for a slow count of 4, and then you're going to wait before you inhale again for another slow count of 4. I am going to draw a square in the air with my finger. You can follow my finger, or you can close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. And we're going to do this 4 times. Here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Now return to breathing as usual. All right, tell me, how did that breath square feel? And I've timed it, it takes 1 minute. So what was that like for you? Please type into the chat. Okay. All right, and I know people have to get ready to go back to work. It is 12:57. We are pretty much at the end now. If you have any questions, please feel free to share. And I see it was nice. Excellent. It was wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Aku. All right. I'm glad you all enjoyed the breath square. It's something you can do anytime, anywhere. You don't have to close your eyes, but you can use that as a 1-minute stress reliever. I've suggested that to doctors in the hospitals if they've been dealing with COVID, that if they can, between patients or at least when they go to the restroom, to take an extra 1 minute to just bring that stress level down, because we have all these things that keep causing our stress to climb. If you can find ways to keep bringing it down, we can keep it from becoming overwhelming. So you're all so welcome. Are there any questions? Now's the time. If you like to take your phone self off mute and come on and ask me your question with your voice, I'm ready to listen. If you want to show your beautiful face, you can. If you want to type your question into the chat, all of that is welcome any way you'd like to. And I hope to have an opportunity to talk to those of you who have joined me live via Zoom or who have joined through AAU Media to do a one-on-one with me. So make sure that you go to draku.com, draku.timetap.com to schedule your one-on-one. I will put that in the chat one more time to everybody. And I will put that into the chat for All About You Media as well. All right, it is almost 1 o'clock. So if there are no questions, or you can feel free to ask your questions when you come and join me for our one-on-one. I thank you all for coming. Thank you for interacting with me in the chat, for taking this time out for yourselves, and for allowing me to share my gift of stress reduction. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to providing you more opportunities for stress reduction in the future. Be well.